So could you talk just a little bit about how does our solution, Blue Shift's XDR suite, how does it help protect organizations, even like one you're talking about, how does it protect organizations or how does it sort of help eliminate, if you will, maybe that risk that is associated with human error?
So there's a lot of things we look at when you collect the amount of data that we do. You can look for anomalies, right? So you can take things that I'm going to back up 1 second. So there is an advantage to working in a control system environment when it comes to the data you can collect on those specific environments themselves. Control systems are what we call very deterministic. So the network traffic, the traffic that they're sending and what they're doing is a very deterministic thing. It usually does not change, right? So what I mean by that, they're not going out to the internet, they're not surfing sites and doing all kinds of stuff that you don't know. Those control systems talk to a very specific protocol to a very specific machine, usually at the same volumes and those sorts of things. So the environment can be baselined in that control system environment. It can be baselined pretty easily. Versus when you have to deal with business networks, they're undeterministic, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't know, like I don't know what Rob's going to do tomorrow when he gets on his computer. I don't know where you're going to go, what you're going to do, or who's going to download what and all that kind of stuff. But there are certain data points you can take inside those business networks to normalize on. You can look at alert levels. You can look at other things to try to get a normalization on, and then look at the types of things you're seeing on that network and run a calculation based on the risk of what you're seeing there, right? So you can take, I'm seeing, these type of alerts or these type of attacks or these type of things we're seeing inside the network. We weight them in different ways based on the severity of what we're seeing, and then we can come out with this risk score is what we use based on our algorithm. And that risk score should stay pretty much constant, even in a business network, right? So even if you're going to different places, the risk profile that we develop on that network traffic should stay relatively constant. If it doesn't, that means that something has changed inside the network. It doesn't mean that it's changed it's a bad change. Could be maybe you added some more servers. Maybe you moved some stuff. Maybe you closed off something and the risk went down. But that change is something we can look at, right? So we can alert on the risk profile of this network has changed. Let's see what made that change. And is it something that could be a mistake? And we've detected mistakes like that before. People, right? So people are trying to do things, they're trying to multitask, they're trying to do a lot of different things. And when people are rushed, that leads to mistakes, right? So things like, troubleshooting something and changing a firewall rule, like putting it with the dreaded what's called the any rule in a firewall, like worst rule ever, because it just allows anything back and forth, right? So those sorts of things will show up in our system immediately, like because it's gonna cause the risk profile to change. And you need to be aware of those sorts of things. We've caught several of those, like that specific thing where someone has been trying to troubleshoot something with a vendor. It's not working. They say, oh, your firewall's blocking it. The IT guy says, I don't think we are. I can prove that to you. Let me put this rule in, allow any. No, it's still not working. So they keep troubleshooting, but they forgot that they put that rule in there, and a couple of days go by, and then all of a sudden we're like, hey, our risk profile has changed. What did you do to this machine? It's like, I forgot to put that rule in there. Yeah, so don't put those rules in, right? So but I get it, because they're pressed for time, right? They're trying to eliminate as much things as possible, but by doing that they end up making a mistake, and an adversary will absolutely take advantage of that mistake when they detect it. So we want to try to minimize. So I think mistakes are probably the third leading cause, and don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's probably the third or fourth leading cause of a data breach is a mistake that happens. And again, we call those the accidental insiders, right? So that is a threat model. When you talk about industrial control systems, you have insider threats, you have accidental insiders, people who may do something malicious and again, that's not a malicious thing, but they can cause something malicious to happen because they've made a mistake. So.